Hello, and thank you for the opportunity to talk to you about our public patient involvement workshops that were co-created with public partners. My name is Tracy Ibbotson, and I'm a PPIE and coordinator at the School of Health and Wellbeing. Sharon Greenwood is a lecturer in public health, and our public partners are Geoff, Mohamed and Milligan. But just to start with a bit of background about public patient involvement. It emerged from a rights-based perspective, and that is to ensure that all parties involved in the research process are heard, and where research is carried out with or by members of the public rather than to, about or for them. It's become an important factor in allowing research to have a meaningful impact across a wide range of contexts and diverse communities, and many funding bodies are looking now for research proposals to have a PPI plan that's been costed into the research application. Excellent public patient involvement is inclusive, values all contributions, and ensures people have a meaningful say in what happens and influence outcomes, as set out in these 6 UK standards for public involvement. Many of our students hold ambitions to be the future world-leading researchers. Therefore, it's essential that the university train people in skills for entering graduate employment. And since 2020, we've successfully delivered PPI workshops to over 150 MVLS postgraduate students via the Graduate Skills Award. In 2023, this was extended out to 25 undergraduate students as one of the initial courses offered on the new GSA initiative. The workshops is a partnership between professional services staff, academics and public partners who are also advising other large research projects within the University of Glasgow. We delivered 2 workshops and that address skills gaps. Each session is co-produced and facilitated by the public partners, and the workshops involves 3 parts. The first part is a 30-minute lecture orientating students to the basic principles of PPIE, which they watch prior to coming to the workshop. Then there's a 3-hour workshop, which can be delivered via Teams or in person. And the workshop is allows students to meet the public partners and to work collaboratively to explore 2 scenarios inspired by real life. Then there's a short presentation to the group about how they may involve public and patient involvement in their own research proposals, and they get feedback from public partners. Finally, we developed a repository of materials in the middle for future workshops. So, using plain English summaries, students can participate and review real-life grant applications with the public contributors. There's no set formula for the problems that they're in the plain English summaries, so there's no right answer. Students meet together in small groups with a facilitator and/or a public partner to discuss each plain English summary. The format of the plain English summary is 100 words, which gives a bit of background, the research questions, the methods used, and a glossary. There's also specific questions for the PPI group to answer. So there's a first session here is about power and advocacy. There's a video about an actual steering group showing an actual PPI group. After a break, there's another one. The second summary is about equality, diversity and inclusivity, and there's a great video about involving communities in your research from the University of Leicester, which is always on our Moodle. There are some rules, obviously, before we start, but mostly we want people to enjoy themselves. So the plain English summary is is about a grant application for a study of SARS, and in particular using metagenomic sequencing to identify viruses to reduce the amount of prescriptions, antibiotic prescriptions. And we want to use this to investigate power and agency. There are many reasons why people find it difficult or challenging to get involved in health research, and these could be personal difficulties, They could be organisational, or even the way researchers act or think sometimes. So the group is given the plain English summary. They read it, and these are the questions they have to answer. How can our group be involved in the study? Will the research answer questions that are important to people with SARS? And what kind of support would a PPI group need? So as I said, they've all read the plain English summary, the 45 minutes discussion, and then bring the notes back to the main group. After a short break, we're going to use the Hail Pneumonia study, which looks at statins to reduce the risk of stroke and heart attack, and using this plain English summary to look at issues about equality and diversity. So encourage students to explore how diversity can be achieved in public patient involvement. So there are basically, they have to imagine they're in a group, they have to discuss the questions and write answers on post-it notes. So the questions they have to ask is, how can Dr. Berry add more people to the PPI group for the study? How can he involve people from more diverse backgrounds? And is there any barriers to involving these diverse backgrounds? So your facilitator might be asking the students to think about how do you involve people in research? Are there online opportunities? Are there local patient groups? Maybe they could prompt them to think about issues around equality, diversity and inclusivity. What factors influence these? What's the types of barriers to being involved in research? And then they can maybe think about recognise the diversity within the community. What works in one community might not work in another community. So at the end, they bring their comments back, and then these are the take-home messages we give to them. One is the definition about PPIE, which we've mentioned. Secondly, is that the research has to be meaningful and it creates societal impact. Also, what kind of activities can be used in a PPIE plan. Message 4, recognising diversity and giving an equal opportunity for everyone to take part in the research, regardless of age, geographical location, gender, ethnicity, or any other factors. And then finally, that public patient involvement isn't a research method. It's about reflecting on the process of how people should be involved. They are also, at the end of the first session, given guidelines for presenting in session 2. They are asked to give a 5-minute presentation on how they could involve public patients in their work. And the following guidelines may help them to put that together. They can use a plain English summary form that was used in the scenarios. But the things you might want to talk about are if they think it's important to involve people, how they will find people, and activities and barriers. So we also asked them to fill in a short evaluation question. Firstly, to write down 3 things they'd gained from today's session. Overall, I think they understood that there was a public involvement had a huge impact on study design. It was a great way to make research more meaningful and improve outcomes. And also it showed how important diversity was. Practically speaking, they were more familiar with the logistics of how to get people involved and to recognise the fact that they needed to plan PPIE for the research from the outset. We also asked them what they disliked about the session and how that might be improved. And to be honest, they seemed to enjoy it. There wasn't a lot of people who said anything against the session. Perhaps the main issue was that the discussion was a bit too lengthy, and they would prefer it to be continuous over different time periods. And the other main issue that was brought up was they wanted to be mixed into groups. We'd separated them out into science and public health groups, and so they felt that mixing would give a much rounder discussion. So that's all I wanted to say today. Thank you again for listening to the talk, and I'm very happy to answer any questions.